Welcome to the Rummage Report for April 13th, 2026. Today's topic is Trump threatens Iran nuclear airstrikes. Sam Balance kicks us off today.
Hey guys, I just read about President Trump launching this massive airstrike campaign against Iran called Operation Epic Fury. They've hit over 13,000 targets, focusing on everything from missile production to their navy. On paper, it sounds like a bold move to curb Iran's influence and nuclear ambitions, but here's the kicker. It's also driving up energy prices globally, which hits everyday Americans right in the wallet. With about 20% of the world's oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz, any instability there can lead to higher gas prices and food costs. Sure, they've destroyed a lot of military infrastructure, but there's concern that without a ground invasion, we're just stuck in a cycle of low-level conflict, like Israel's cutting the grass strategy. People are already feeling the pinch with inflation, and if these airstrikes don't lead to a solid resolution, we could see more economic fallout without any real security gain.
Sam, you're spot on about the economic fallout. The airstrikes are pushing energy prices higher, which hits working families hard. Imagine a single mom in Ohio trying to fill her gas tank while juggling rising food costs. That's the reality for many right now.
But here's the kicker. Without a clear strategy for de-escalation, we risk getting stuck in this cycle of conflict, just like you said. The Pentagon is already warning that we're running out of meaningful targets, which could lead to a prolonged and ineffective military presence in the region. We need a diplomatic solution, not just bombs, or we'll see more economic pain without any real security gain.
Sam, you're right about the energy prices. It's a real concern for families struggling to make ends meet. But Jordan, I think you're underestimating the importance of a strong military response here. The goal is to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons, which could lead to a far worse scenario down the line. Without this decisive action, we risk emboldening not just Iran, but other adversaries who see weakness as an opportunity. Yes, the airstrikes might be driving up short-term costs, but think about the long-term safety of our families and the potential costs of a nuclear-armed Iran. We need to balance immediate economic impacts with national security priorities.
Jordan, you nailed the point about the economic pain families are feeling right now. It's tough for that single mom in Ohio when gas and food prices are skyrocketing. But Casey, I understand your emphasis on military strength, yet we need to consider the long-term effects. The airstrikes may deter Iran temporarily, but if we don't have a solid plan for what comes next, we might just end up in a never-ending cycle of conflict, like Israel's cutting the grass strategy. The Pentagon's warnings about running out of targets show that without a broader strategy, we risk not just economic fallout, but also a diminished military credibility if we can't deliver lasting results.
Casey, you're right that national security is crucial, but we also have to consider how these military actions are affecting everyday Americans. The airstrikes are leading to higher energy prices, which means more strain on families already struggling with inflation. A single mom in Ohio shouldn't have to choose between filling her gas tank and buying groceries because of a military strategy that might not even yield long-term results. Sam hit the nail on the head about the risk of getting stuck in a cycle of conflict. We need a diplomatic approach to truly secure our safety and avoid further economic pain.
Sam, you're absolutely right about the economic strain on families, especially with energy prices on the rise. But Jordan, while a diplomatic approach sounds nice, we can't ignore the reality of Iran's ambitions. They've shown time and again that they won't back down without significant pressure. The airstrikes are meant to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is a far greater threat than the temporary spike in gas prices. If Iran gets nuclear weapons, the long-term costs to our safety and economy could be catastrophic. We have to consider the stakes here. Strong military action now could save us from a much bigger crisis later.
The conversation. The discussion centered around President Trump's airstrike campaign against Iran, with Sam Balance highlighting the immediate economic impacts, particularly rising energy prices, and the potential for a prolonged conflict without a clear strategy. Jordan Progress echoed these concerns, emphasizing the need for a diplomatic solution to avoid further economic pain for everyday Americans. Casey Liberty while acknowledging the economic strain, argued for the necessity of a strong military response to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, suggesting that the threat to national security outweighs short-term economic consequences. Disagreements arose over the effectiveness of military action versus diplomacy, with Casey prioritizing national security and Jordan advocating for a focus on the economic realities facing families. Worth thinking about. 1. If military action leads to significant economic hardship for American families, at what point should we reconsider our approach to foreign conflicts? 2. How do we balance the immediate need for national security against the long-term consequences of military interventions, particularly in terms of public sentiment and economic stability? 3. If Iran were to successfully develop nuclear weapons despite airstrikes, what would be the potential ramifications for U.S. foreign policy and global stability? If you asked me, and remember, I'm a raccoon, I'd say sometimes it's better to dig through the trash than to launch a full-on garbage truck attack.